Hi everybody and welcome to a brand new episode of Plaguenarr, and today I'm gonna show you part 1 of my new Custodes guide, how to paint the armor and metallics. And as usually I primed the mini black, and this time I did a sub-assembly just to reach awkward angles and don't need to do any brush acrobatics while painting the details. And for the first step we're using Gaahleri Kaleido acrylic champagne gold, and we're applying this in 2 very thin layers over all armor panels with an airbrush. You can also apply this color with a brush, but you will need a little bit more of time, probably 3 layers, because this color is super fluid, but this makes it perfect as a base coat without any masking for a golden true metallic metal armor. And I still try to avoid areas that will be painted over in other colors. Even though the layers of paint are ultra thin, it's still harder to paint over them afterwards. And in the second step we're creating a low surface tension wash, and we're doing this by mixing precisely 5 drops of Guilliman Flesh, 3 drops of Lahmian Medium, 2 drops of Airbrush Thinner and 1 drop of Airbrush Flow Improver. You've got the right consistency when a mixture simply runs down the side without leaving much paint behind. And the basic idea behind this mix is that the medium and thinner lower the surface tensions so that the wash flows into the recesses without shifting the base color. Work panel by panel and trust the process. While the paint is still wet, the color shift looks very intense, but that will change once the paint dries. And this is what it looks like when it's dry, just a slight color change, but with deep shadows. In step 3 we're dry brushing back some of the champagne gold, and as usually I use a Artis Opus Series D Medium Plus brush and a texture palette and dampening pad. Dry brush in circular motions to create volumetric highlights over all armor panels by maintaining the deep shade we created with the wash. Now the gold looks lighter again, but it's still deep red in the shaded areas. With Pro Acryl Bright Gold we're then dry brushing on some lighter volumetric highlights. And I'm always talking about that I take a picture of the primed mini from all angles under a lamp so that I can place highlights more effectively. And this time I've brought a photo like that as an example. Simply use the light reflections visible on the black primer as a guide. And of course we're not just doing this for the armor, we're also doing this for the shield and the head as well. And now we have a really bright gold with deep shadows and smooth transitions. In step 5, we're now applying a base coat to all the silver metallic parts with Legio Dark Aluminium. And we're doing this now because we will highlight everything, so the golden armor and the silver metallic parts, with a light silver in a later stage by an overall dry brush. And this is what your mini should look like now. And now it's time for another low surface tension wash. We're now mixing up 5 drops of Basilicanum Grey, 2 drops of Telazar Blue, 6 drops of Lahmian Medium, and 6 drops of Airbrush Thinner, and finally 1 drop of Flow Improver. And even if it's a low surface tension wash, it will still have a total different behavior, and this is basically because of the strong pigmentation of the Basilicanum Grey and the Telazar Blue. And this will result in a bluish color shift with deep shadows on the silver metallic parts. And this is an idea I picked up from the Grey Knights color scheme, and I thought that this cool color might give a nice contrast to the overall color scheme compared to the reddish warm armor. As you can see, the silver now looks as if it were anointed with holy oils. And to bring back in more of the silver look, we're then going back to the dark aluminium, and we're using an Artis Opus Series D extra small plus brush here. And this super small brush with long bristles gives us a little bit more precision so that we only touch the silver metallic parts. And this should be the result, just a subtle shade of blue, but the recessed shades are still deep. In step 8, we're using Pro Acryl Silver to add edge highlights over all armor and silver metallic panels. And this time we're not using circular motions, we'll stroke the brush always in the direction of the edge we want to highlight. For more precision in this stage, I'm using an Artis Opus Series D small plus brush. As you can see, this makes the armor panels really standing out, especially on the sharp edges. With 2 parts Basilicanum Grey and 1 part Telazar Blue, we're creating a glaze shade we can now use to create a little bit more of deeper shades and soft transitions for the metallic parts before we add final touch-up highlights. And here I'm using the reference picture again, only now I'm focusing on the darkest areas. With Guilliman Flesh, we're then doing the same for the golden armor. And I prepare one pure Guilliman Flesh and one thinned version of Guilliman Flesh. The thinned version is for glazing in shadows, and the pure version is for recess shades on real deep areas. And as you can see, we're now in the final stages of painting the armor. From this point, the other parts of the miniature are also painted in the video, and there will definitely be a second video where I'll show you how to paint the gems, leather parts and the cloak. But I wanted to keep the videos separate so that the video on the armor can be used on its own for other miniatures like Stormcasts or any other kind of metallic gold armor. Now we've added softer transitions and created real deep shadows. In the final stage we will use Pro Acrylic Silver to make certain parts of the mini standing out and add a little bit more of contrast to the final overall look of all the metallic parts. To do this, I highlight the upper edges of the sword so that the sword stands out. I also highlight all the armor bolts and edges around the helmet and on the helmet itself so that this part catches the attention of the viewer. And after finishing this step and point out a couple of more parts we want to make stand out, it is finally time to take a look into our final result. Thank you everybody so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I hope you had some fun and I hope to see you soon.